Gary.
No, Gary, go. That was looking for emotional support.
Hey Gary. Hey. You wanna sit in the corner so you can see?
I'll sit in this corner.
Well, Gary, the problem is that the screen's up here.
That's all right.
You sure?
Yeah.
You should use the package and stuff over there.
I'll sit right here next to Kevin. Bother him.
All right, fine. You can flip over your shoulder.
Congratulations.
6 o'clock.
This is the March 5th Board of Trustees budget meeting. Will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk Witt?
Mayor Doro,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Trustee Buckland,
Here.
Trustee Mawson,
Here.
Trustee Silky.
So we're going to cover fire and police tonight in that order. Former mayor, consultant, Colby is here to help the board walk through these things. I may have to step out, and if I do, I'll just ask that Deputy Mayor Murphy and Tim kind of just take over and lead things from there. We have from the firehouse tonight, the whole crew, okay? How do you guys want to start?
Can I give an overview first?
Yeah,
Just
perfect.
let me just
Good idea.
explain. So last week, we did the water budget, we did the sewer budget. The way we did it was pretty straightforward. Scott came in and showed us all his expenses, and then we looked what the clerk said were the expected revenues. And in real time, we modified expenses and revenues until we got to them equal the same number. Revenue had to equal expenses. We did that for water, we did it for sewer. All right, now those are done. Now we're gonna do the general fund, which is the A fund. And is the thing I told you before, there's 4 components on the expense side. There's fire and rescue, there's police, there's the highway, and there's a front office. So we're gonna do fire and rescue and police tonight. Next week is your board meeting. So in 2 weeks, then we'll do highway and front office. Review expense projections from each of the appropriate department heads. Then the following week, the clerks will go back, roll all the expense requests together into a total general fund expense account. And they'll also go look at revenues. Now, revenue is in 2 flavors. We have the tax levy, and we have other revenue. Okay, right now our budget this year is about $2.2 million of expenses, and so therefore there's $2.2 million of revenue, broken up about 1.1 million of tax levy and 1.1 million of other revenue. And other revenue we'll go through in a couple of weeks is about 20 different things where we receive money from other agencies, the town of Washington, the county, the state. So we'll go through that in that 3rd week. What they will do is they will show you, here's the total expenses that were requested. Here's the expected other revenue. We're going to subtract expenses from other revenue has to equal the tax levy. All right? And then they'll compare the tax levy to what the 2% cap limit is dictated by New York State. And then we have to go through the process of figuring out where we can get more revenue, to raise the levy, can we cut expenses altogether. So that doesn't really happen until like 3 weeks from now. So this meeting and the next meeting is basically for us to hear the department heads bring forward what they think they need to do their job for the next year. All right? We're trying to get the kinks worked out by about the 2nd of April, so we can come to the meeting, the board meeting on the 9th of April for a public hearing and hopefully a vote by the board to accept the new budget for the next fiscal year. So, everybody clear on how we're gonna work this? Look, I'm sure you're drinking a lot through a fire hose here, but we're gonna take it through step by step. And please keep us posted with any questions you've got about what we're doing here. All right? All right, so tonight we're gonna be doing 2 things. One, the fire and rescue budget, and the second is the police. We'll start off with fire and rescue. And we'll do the same thing. We'll use this summary sheet that we got. And actually, Dom, I prefer if you guys just talk to this to start with. And then when questions come up, we've got your detailed sheets and background. Right? I just want to let you all know, if you take a look at this sheet, go to the bottom. In the bottom right-hand corner is the total of the requests coming into us for fire and rescue. $986,000, you see that? Go over three columns to the current budget of $761,000. So what you're seeing is the request is coming in with an increase of $225,000 or 30% year over year. Most of that is if you go up and you'll see the cost for the paid ambulance contract we have with NDP 24/7 service from NDP for ambulance support is increasing from $425,000 to $600,000. That's a major kick. So of this $225,000 increase, you're looking at $175,000 is right there. And so this is going to be a problem, this budget, as well as ongoing years, because after this year, $600,000, next year goes up to $700,000, and then third year is $800,000. So unless we get some kind of help from the county, we're going to be stuck looking at this for the next 3 years at least. We, as well as the town of Washington, we have to pay for it. So with that as that front up, I'll turn over to Dom, and you can take us through the detail.
Sure thing. Alright, we'll just start right at the top, the unallocated insurance, I don't really have any control over that other than trying to assume what they're gonna jack up the rates, which we do the best we can. I think, Nicole, you said figure 8% increase on that,
Yeah,
so that's what we,
All right, so 8% is a lot less than 30,000.
yeah, so that's what there was an extra like $3,800 put in there, that's why I asked you if the cancer policy was put into that number.
oh, okay.
So,
So we move the cancer policy down, you can see that further, about halfway down.
Yep.
All right, so we should change that 30,000 to, would you say 7% on top of the,
well, I can just take that 3875 out. So if, I did the spreadsheet already for that allocated insurance.
uh,
Let's see if I actually have that. And it those numbers that are 1095, 1097, 730, 7350, and 7800, those were the projected at the 8%.
okay, so what's the $30,000? It should be only like 25,000.
26,125.
26, okay, fine. All right, so let's make that change.
Okay, so I will just take this out.
All right, Dom.
The fire equipment, 22.
And Dom's detail sheets are really helpful for you there to just watch what he's talking about.
So that got bumped up, where's that? Some of that is, this year we had several breakdowns, a couple of the older trucks are starting to show their age, need more repairs, so they got bumped up in our list. So it's just trying to predict how much breaking down will happen in the next year. Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong one myself. So that's the CO meters, the traffic control vests, big jump on that was, the turnout gear. Like I mentioned, a few months ago, newer members, we're gonna have to get them fitted for gear coming up, so there's that.
How many sets of turnout gear is that? 26
I believe that is 6 sets.
6?
Yep.
And when do you get the turnout gear for the volunteers? When they are certified, qualified?
Once they finish a class that makes them useful on the fire
Okay.
ground, then we get them fitted.
And so these are all for new volunteers?
Yes.
No replacements?
Right now, pretty much if everyone, or the majority of the new members, finish the class, if the majority of them do, it'll be all new members. If a couple of them end up not following through or decide this isn't for them, then I'll be able to go through and update gear from their current members.
Now, the traffic control, Chief Dorgan was saying that you guys are working together to,
Yes, for the flares and a
For
couple of
flares,
other projects,
which
he's
is
found a
really
couple
smart.
lower prices, so we'll be working together to try to lower that, but,
okay,
no, that's or less. Once we get to a certain point, we can't go any lower on those. Have you found the magic hole of them yet?
Not yet.
No. Then we have gloves and hoods, those just the company that we get the turnout gear from that sells them separately and we put them in the same quote. The last thing on that line is the brush skid unit. Our one brush truck, 4963, the tank and pump on it, they've been on 2 or 3 trucks now. And the motor and the pump are starting to wear out. We're having issues where it won't start on calls. So that's something we're looking to hopefully replace this year. I've gotten a couple rough quotes of generally replace what we have, and they've all been right about 20 to 23,000.
so that's a new purchase?
That's a new purchase, yeah,
Okay.
to replace the aging out pump.
And there's no alternatives other than buying new, I don't know anything about a brush skid unit, so.
No, so what it is, it's a tank and pump that go right in the bed of a pickup truck. Generally, if someone else is selling one, it's pretty banged up already. Like to get something that'll last us another 20 to 25 years versus 10 and having to do it again. Any questions on that stuff? Alright, the next one, fire CE, big jump in that one this year is the Red NMX program. At $10,000 to run all the computer software and the cell phone app for responding. Other than that, the cell phones, the tablets, breathing air compressor service, that's new because we finally got the breathing air compressor set up and it has to get serviced, and it gets calibrated twice a year, otherwise it won't function at all, so then it becomes a giant paperweight. The SCBA testing, that stays about the same every year. SCBA parts, the air monitor service, extinguisher service, jaws of life service, pagers and radios, that went up a little bit. I was hoping to keep that down, but the county's plan to replace the current radio system is now being pushed back to 2027 at the earliest now. They've run into some problems getting that up and running. So until then, I do have to update some of our aging out radios. Cascade rental for the oxygen for the ambulance, 2,000. Pump testing, that stays the same every year, and hose and ladder testing. Any questions on that stuff?
Yeah, the pagers and radio, so basically you more than doubled the,
Yes,
so it was
so.
2,500 last year, you raised it to 6,000?
Yeah, so Ted had been kind of banking on this radio system getting up and running because the county kept promising us, no, 2024. Then he got out and they went 2025. I went, okay, we can wait another year. Now they're saying 2 more years from now. We kind of got backed up waiting for this new radio system to come in, and now they pushed it back 2 years. So we have a little backlog of getting some pagers and radios in.
And the new pager, the 911 Red NMX, there's no help from the county for this? This is,
No,
every year
so,
we've got to pay this?
yeah, we are looking to possibly not use them, but as of yet, we haven't found a viable source to otherwise fill that gap.
So you're not locked in to use that?
We're not locked in to use that exact company. The county kind of pushed everyone towards that, and a lot of the departments in the county are going, we really don't like it, we're gonna look for something new.
Oh,
It pretty much, the county signed with them, probably got some kind of signing deal and went, all right, we'll tell everyone to use it. And it's not that great of a system,
I see.
so.
And you just started that contract end of last year?
Yes, so we'll be in it until, December.
Fourth quarter? Okay,
Yeah. So, but that gives us 9 months to try and find someone new.
Hmm.
Any other questions on that? Fuel, that's our projected gasoline and diesel usage. Nothing too crazy there other than trying to anticipate what fuel prices will be for the next year. Training, the only increase I think I had in there was the fire prevention. They just asked for $150 extra just to be able to have some stuff to hand out to the schools.
Well, the in-house training went up 500, but I assume that was because of new people coming on board.
Yes.
The gasoline and diesel, that's a pretty good hefty percent increase.
I'm just running reports now, and if they're in projection and the amount that they're using, they're gonna need more.
So these numbers are projected are consistent with what they're run so far? Okay.
It's 33.20 year to date.
Year to date, 3320, yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Onto apparatus maintenance. This is one that I thought we were starting with. This is where I went up about 5,000 to try to bridge the gap of what we had to spend this year on repairs and some maintenance on the trucks. Any questions on that? Physicals, that went up some. Again, anticipating the need for more from having all the new members. I don't believe I increased the hepatitis rate blood test. That stayed the same.
Go back to the apparatus.
Yep.
So just across the board, everything is going up
Yeah.
100 to 500, actually to $800. For the rescue truck, went up 1,000.
Yes.
Well, why is that?
Well, we had several problems this year, and we're anticipating more.
Is that right?
That's the truck that we're looking to get
Oh,
replaced in
okay,
2 years.
I see.
So that's our oldest truck, and so far giving us the most problems.
$49.55.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions on that part? We did physicals, we'll go down to the fire employee benefits.
LoSAP, so we've got numbers from LoSAP that have gone down. Those numbers are from you, or
I believe you guys.
Is that?
it shows a healthy reduction in the LoSAP requirement.
I did not put those in, those are the numbers I was given.
Oh, I did, okay.
Yeah.
Of course, the one where we reduce the price for the acre check.
Yeah, I'd love to have something go that's the,
Yeah, that actually went down, I don't know why, but those, yeah, it's one of the things I asked, I was like, just making sure those are correct
Yeah.
numbers, but I don't have a way of getting those.
yeah,
Is it this?
No.
that must have been a typo on my end.
No,
Yeah,
employee benefits, it's here, this one here.
yeah, I believe that was a typo on my end. That should have been more.
So, who actually gets the official number? Sarah, does it come to you, or?
I just get the bill
You get the
from, I
bill?
get the bill from, that I've paid now.
I know it fluctuates from year to
Yeah.
year based on what the estimated activity is gonna be
Right.
in this annuity program.
Yeah, no,
Just for the, so
It's
the
been
board
hard
knows,
to track
we
it.
have for the fire volunteers in the annuity program, there's a length of service, I don't know what the AP stands for. But basically, we put a little money every year towards the eventual retirement of a certain number of volunteers. And every year they tabulate how many equivalent calls they make, something like that, or hours
yeah,
of service.
based off of how many calls we make, how many drills, and how many many meetings we make.
Right, so they accumulate credits towards an eventual annuity payout. So it's a very nice program for them, but it is costly for us to keep it funded. And it does change every year, so it's important that we find out what's the actual, I think we're supposed to get an estimate from Lois after the payment's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, I haven't received anything, but. Yeah, somehow I made a typo there.
All right, so Sarah, you'll work on just firm up that number.
I will.
Right, cause prior year was 18,991 and then we budgeted 24,4 this year.
Okay,
And it's showing that we still have 10, I don't know what other bills are still
yeah,
due in.
I thought it was just a periodic payment. I
No,
think
we
that's
get,
just-
there's the UBS, then there's the PenFlex base fee and then PenFlex participant.
Yeah, okay. I thought that was all.
Those two bottom ones usually stay the same, it's the top one that's
Yeah.
different.
All right, so fine, we'll go off and verify that number.
Yep. Next up is the cancer policy. Nothing much there. The transfer to equipment reserve. I'm gonna make my yearly plea for more in that.
No, that's the bottom number you want.
Oh.
If you go to this sheet, the very bottom
Very bottom.
is a 75,000.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so save your plea till then.
Okay, save my plea. Alright, next is the workman's comp. That again is mercy of the insurance companies. We try to adjust as best as we can, hope for the best.
Well, again, is that coming from the clerks?
They give us a rough idea and
We
say,
kinda did an increase on it, because the county gives us that number
Right,
after the fact.
yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah.
All right, that's an estimate.
Cause they gave it
Yeah.
to
But we don't have to pay that extra this year.
Yep.
So, which is good.
yeah, cause you guys just got that like a month ago and sent it to me.
Yeah.
And said,
So it was, what year to date, it was 14,952, so it was less, but
yeah,
who knows if you have new
new
members.
members, they could jack it
Yeah,
up.
and it depends on your hours and everything, cause then I submit all that information, I think in December.
Yeah.
I get those numbers, so.
All right, from this master sheet though, you just skipped over the ambulance contractual expenses.
Well, ambulance is on a different sheet. Is,
Oh, you wait till you get, okay, fine, we'll do that, sure. We'll come back to that number. And the other numbers, that's basically the principal and the interest on the pickup.
Yeah.
And then
Well, the 49.2, that one's done.
Yeah.
It's the 49.1 that's left.
and that paper is in here,
Okay,
Yeah,
tells you what,
yeah, I have that, you guys printed that off for me last year and I have that sitting in the office where I
Yep.
pulled that number from. Alright. So. Now it's the, right?
that was your plea.
Oh,
At the
now,
bottom.
now we're on to my plea. Okay. So, every year 75,000 gets put into the apparatus, reserve fund. Some of you may have known that, we just put out a bid, or waiting to put out the bid for, the new rescue truck. The cost of that is 1.1 million, and, the reserve fund right now is putting us at just below 400,000.
now
So,
is that including this year's payment? It
yes.
does, okay, fine, all right.
So, as you can see, it kind of gets us just a little below, a third of the cost of a new truck. If we could bump that up to, I'd love to see 100,000. That would be wonderful, but I know not everything happens. What's the word's feeling on that?
My problem is we're looking at a $225,000 increase already. And I just don't think this is a good year to be.
Budget.
Yeah, I know the ambulance is, the ambulance is putting a hurting on everyone.
I know.
Well, this
Unionville.
Countywide.
county-
Yeah, Unionville just signed for about 600,000, you said,
They're over 850.
Yeah.
850.
That's right.
And they're not 24/7, they're only 12 hours.
Yeah,
And Stanford was trying to get a contract and they weren't even being offered ALS.
yeah,
They had BLS.
Yeah,
So I mean, hate to say it, $600,000 sounds like astronomical. It's the best deal I know around here.
yeah.
Why, what's the justification?
They've got us between
Okay.
There just isn't any competition.
There's some competition. Part of it is the overuse of the 911 system for petty calls, the rising costs of medical equipment.
Yeah.
They pay their employees health insurance as well, and that's going up all the time.
Let me tell you, when I went out to bid for the new contract that started at $600,000, only one other responder was Empress, and they were 800 plus thousand. So this was the best deal we had.
Yeah.
Right.
And there was a third company that was offered or suggested to me by Dutchess County. They're based over across the river, and they didn't even respond.
Ambulance.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
And they're basically with us on the Dutchess right now.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they do
there's
respond.
been a rumor going around that Empress is trying to buy out NDP. So next year NDP may
They're
not
always
be
going
an
after.
option. Yeah. But, and I believe that takes me to the end of my,
What about the EMS?
Well, we still didn't do Matt's budget either.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. You're looking at the map.
So I just have a question for fire equipment and fire contractual. Am I putting in those requested numbers for now?
Yeah, for
And
now,
they sent it, yeah.
right, for
Okay,
now, we should
okay.
put in
I
requested.
Just didn't know.
We'll come back and divide them by 2 later after they leave, but that's okay.
Then you can pick me apart.
You know, you probably have to do something there. Let's wait till they have it all together.
Do EMS now then, or do?
Yeah, let's do EMS.
EMS. So their contractual expenses, first aid supplies, EpiPens, the stretchers, spare chair service and AED service, 5,000. Training and education, 3,000. The big thing adding on this year, I believe, is the new O2 tanks.
Yes.
They're looking to get new bottles, smaller ones that are easier to fit and carry. Then their protective gear rehab, O2 first aid bags, 3,000, and the EMS tablets and program,
I don't
4,000.
know how many O2 tanks $3,000 gets, but do they need to buy all those tanks or?
So they're trying to get everyone to be uniform. So over the years, they discontinued certain bags that are specific for EMS. And they're trying to get back on track of having everyone have the same thing. So if someone has to grab someone else's bag, it's not, oh, where do you keep this? It's, they know right where everything is. I think they have 10, they ordered 10 of them. And they're trying to get them all filled because those new bags need the smaller bottles. They don't fit the big ones.
I see.
John,
Yes.
how many, times did the ambulance go out last year? Millbrook's ambulance.
I don't have that in front of me right now. I would say the ambulance itself went to 80 calls and went to the hospital 25, 30 times. That's kind of roughhousing off the top of my head. I just didn't have that in front of me.
No problem.
That kind of leads to a good question. We went to 24/7.
Yeah.
Right, paid service. Because the volunteers were decreasing in numbers, right? It was
Yes.
difficult for them to make calls, especially off hours. We kept this in place as a backup, right? And just convenient with NDP's out on a call here, another call comes in, it's nice to have somebody that can go and do at least first level
Yep.
assistance, right? What's the outlook, is that a viable continuing service, or is there, we should be looking to sunset that?
So right now we're going through a change in the command over there. Lori Olson is stepping down. I have the feeling I'd like to give it a fair chance under someone new running it, Kim Bonus. I'd like to give it a fair chance and see how things work out under her before we start talking about sunsetting it.
Okay,
I think the change in the leadership on that side will help out.
What about the other direction? How long is the contract with NDP for?
3 years.
Was
It's a 3-year contract.
Starts when?
Starts June 1st of this year. It goes June 1st to May 31st of each year.
What? If the rig is there and all the equipment is there, have you guys thought about a budget that includes paid employees to man that?
Hey, you mean like hiring our own EMTs and medics?
Instead of having NDP.
I'm
It-
thinking if there's $600,000 here and you already own the equipment,
It-
what's it cost to pay people?
Yeah, it's definitely something to look into. I believe it's West Clinton does that already. Has a similar program.
They have, yeah.
I can talk to them and get you some numbers, see what,
I'm just,
yeah.
Thinking out loud.
That's a nice idea.
It's
Yeah,
an
it's not
idea.
bad.
The only downside to that is since we only have one ambulance, if something happens to it, then we'd be having to find an alternative transport vehicle.
But then we can have a deal where Millbrook is the primary and we have on-call backup NDP.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'll start looking into. I'll get back to you on that.
I mean, one of the key things, because Sus Reno was going around to the municipalities and talking about this, and one of the problems people complaining about is getting the experienced, trained personnel
Mhm.
to stay in the job. And retention is a big problem with them, so it would be a challenge, but it certainly sounds lucrative from a cost point of view. And by the way, the contract we have is with NDP 3 years. We have, we can get out of it with 60 days advance notice, written advance notice. All right,
How much does it go up every year?
100,000,
100K.
600, 700, 800. So we have an exit from there if we find an alternative,
With no penalty?
no penalty.
Just 90 days?
60.
I think it's 60.
60 days.
Oh, 60.
Well, I should check the contract. It's something like 60. It's pretty nearby. Okay. So that is,
Not a bad thought.
yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely look into that. I'm pretty sure it's West Clinton. I think Tim K used to, so very hot to have.
Well, how quickly can you actually really look into that? That's really something, I guess we don't have to do it for this budget. We certainly could be doing it this summer.
Okay.
If you put it together, right? So why don't you go back and chew on that and talk to your guys and see when you can come back with a proposal.
So with the secondary, having NDP as a secondary, do you know what those costs would be?
No, I don't even know if they'd be willing to do it, tell you the truth.
Oh, okay,
I mean, the problem is that they have a resource issue as well.
yeah.
For some reason, they seem to give us preference as far as the skills as well as the contracts. And so this might sever that relationship. So we'd have to make sure that was all lined up before we ever came forward and said, here's what we're gonna do.
Right,
And that's up in the air, I have no idea.
right.
Empress is still around here, right?
Oh,
Yes.
Empress is down here now.
Unionville, okay, fine.
Yeah, I think Pleasant Valley too.
Pleasant Valley uses Empress.
Plus, don't a lot of the personnel live around here?
They vary.
Yeah.
Is that right?
But what we've been finding too is we also lost, an EMT and medic that runs our unit, left Dutchess County and went to, Columbia County. And the mere fact that they pay more.
I bet.
And it's less BS of it to do with.
All right. Okay, Don, anything else?
I think that covers me and it's Matthew's turn.
Matt?
Let's see here. Before we actually begin, one thing I don't see in here is the last payment of the roof.
That's this fiscal year.
Yeah.
We're working on the next one. So this year's the last one,
We pay that in April.
9,000.
Okay,
So this would be
so
the
that's,
fifth.
so the year we're in, sorry, Tim, the year we're in,
Is
Yeah.
the last
So-
payment.
Yeah, in
was
April.
last year's
Hold on.
roof repair payment 405.
Yeah, payment
Yeah,
405, so
this
that's
is
505.
in this fiscal year.
Here, I'll show you.
So we don't
That's
have to
the-
budget for it.
Okay,
So Matt's saying that in the last year's budget, what he put in was this would be payment 405. I think that's what you're saying, that.
correct, and so next year's
After you-
budget would be 505.
So we pay this, oh, yeah, there is one more then. right, ending balance.
Yeah, cause.
Plus
Because we paid more the first year, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
like
So
34,000
then,
first year, then
when we
Yeah,
worked
ending
it out,
balance, yeah, it'd
this
be-
ended at 9,000 this fiscal year.
the last pay is supposed to be less than the 14,000.
Correct.
It's supposed to be like 34,000, a couple of 14,000s, and then like a 9,000 or something.
So I
We see the
pay,
screen there.
we paid 14, so then there's a 9 for next fiscal year. Right,
Correct, for next
Well, next fiscal
budget.
year would be this budget.
25-26 budget.
Okay, so
It's-
you have to
yeah.
put it in.
there's a $9,000, yes.
Okay, good catch.
Hopefully it doesn't take away anything else, I'm fine.
We're adding a $15,000 roof.
No, we're adding, so first off,
$9,000.
the story is that the fire department paid for a new roof, a metal roof,
I think I read.
and as part of that, they paid
I think I
probably
read
70% of the
it.
cost. And the town
You know,
and the village paid the remaining 85,000, I think it was. And we agreed to pay it over 5 years. And that's the range of how the payments were made. And that's right, it's supposed to be for 5 years we're paying them.
So the last payment would be the 9,000, which would be for the 25-26
Correct.
Yeah, so let me put this in here, and this will be FD roof.
While she's doing that, I'll do mine. So firehouse utilities,
5.7.
pretty much is the same thing as last year. I think dumpster rental went up a little, $25, not much. Cleaning the firehouse went up $100. Vector security, we moved it up $1. Utilities, electric stayed the same at 11,000. The outdoor phone bill, we raised to 3,000, which is only a couple $100 more. The propane, we raised $50 from the $650 from last year. Heat and fuel, I put at 5,000. Last year we had 7,000, but we figured it out that with the cost of the fuel oil being low, we were able to drop it to 2,000
Okay.
more, or less, I mean. The firehouse repairs, the contractual, pretty much all that stayed the same. I raised the plumbing furnace service up to 1,500 from 1,000 last year. Generator, everything else pretty much stayed the same. The repairs, maintenance, I re-put in the upgrade of the camera system throughout the firehouse, because I took it out of the current budget we're in to pay for the Rennie Max thing.
Right.
The retaining wall on the rescue squad EMS side needs to be replaced. It has been damaged many, many times by the village highway guys when they plow. It's the wrong way. But that needs to be replaced. And I do not have replace the original round lights in the upstairs of the firehouse. I'm still waiting on that amount, that cost. But those lights are the original lights from 1965 when the firehouse was built. They're falling apart, broken. Figured if we go to LEDs, that will save on the electricity. Copier rental, the office stayed the same, pretty much all that stayed the same. The only thing that you're adding now is the final roof.
Is a roof
repair.
8,000.
Anybody have any questions?
These capital upgrades, what's the impact of deferring these again?
How many years do we have to defer it?
I don't know, I'm just saying this is just a bad year. As we saw.
And then we go next year, you're gonna ask us to do the same again. I mean, this is the village of Millbrook's building.
Mhm.
So if I keep deferring stuff that needs to be replaced,
Yeah. I put it
next
in.
year it's gonna cost
I
more.
put it here after you set 9,000.
So the repairs on the retaining wall, you're saying that would be
35.7.
completely replaced instead of repaired?
The top of it is completely damaged, shot.
It's cracking away from the building.
And have you gotten more than one estimate from people?
Oh, we will. This is just a broad.
Okay.
So when I do go ahead and do my,
What's the square footage on it? Roughly?
It's roughly 20 foot long by 5 foot tall out of the ground.
20 feet by what?
5 foot roughly. That's not counting what's under the ground because it's a retaining wall.
How thick is that? Is it like cinder block there?
Yeah, it's cinder blocks with a brick veneer.
With a brick veneer?
Yeah.
Alright.
And you don't have an estimate for the light replacements?
I'm waiting on that.
Do you have an idea of roughly what?
I don't wanna throw you out a amount if it's wrong.
Okay.
But when I go and do my, this is just a broad, when I go and
Yeah. It's
and
fine,
do
we,
the,
that's fine.
get the quotes, we have to get 3 quotes.
Right, okay, I'm just asking.
No, I know, I didn't know if you knew that, so I just
Yeah,
wanted
yeah,
to
no,
mention.
that's fine. So you got 3 quotes and this was like the average?
I have not gotten 3
No, they
quotes.
will get.
Oh, you will? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's like a placeholder for now.
When we go and do the repairs
Oh,
is when we have to get the 3 quotes.
oh, I see, okay.
But he's gotta have
I
the money
misunderstood.
with to repeat the repairs.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
at least
right,
some,
no, yeah, no, I get that, okay. Right,
Hopefully it'll be less than.
hopefully, but we'll see.
Hopefully it's not more.
It is what it is.
I'm just curious if the highway department is continually, hitting this with the plow, I'm sure they're capable of fixing this, or why is it maybe this is a weird question, but
Maybe we should take it and put it in the village highways
I'm
budget?
just wondering,
Why don't you have
I
someone
mean-
else plow?
it's,
Part of the
I don't
problem.
know, if someone hit my.
It's in a weird spot, I'm
It-
sure
it is.
and
It's
it's
kind
not
of
very
in the hill of the wall.
unusually, maybe we need to just redesign so this doesn't happen in the future.
I don't think you can redesign your,
Well, I mean,
you'd have to look at it,
I guess so.
you'd have to go check it.
On the rescue
The
squad
top
base.
plate, the top
Oh,
plate.
smaller
over
doors,
there,
That's,
okay.
if that fell down, fell off and hit somebody,
Yeah, no, I
they
know.
would, and that's completely broken.
Oh,
Yeah, so
yeah, it's a
5 foot
liability.
piece of wood.
So as I look at the garage from Washington Avenue, it's on the left,
On the right.
or the right side, okay,
Yeah.
oh, that wall, well, that is
Right
fine,
there by the
okay.
man that goes into the firehouse.
Alright,
And really, that should have been replaced last year and the year before, but I left it out to put other projects that needed to be done first. But if I leave that again, it will, could cost $25,000 next year.
But at this point, it probably needs to be completely knocked down and you're done. Is that what your assessment is?
It's cracked.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe you, I believe
Until-
you,
Yeah.
I
It's
believe you.
one of those things until you open up the can of worms, you don't know how many
I
worms
know,
you have.
I'm sure it needs to be taken down, I'm sure.
so based on all these discussions, what's the total look at like now?
Well,
total
I'll tell them the
The
square
total for
footage
fire
right
rescue?
away.
It's the same, cause we entered all the same information.
Oh, the $8,000 for the final payment?
91,423, right here at the bottom,
Just put that
991.
$991, okay, okay.
423.
And the reason why we have the town here is because the way we figure out how much of this is paid by the town versus the village is every year we do a update of the ratio of asset values. So we get from Maggie Burns in Dutchess County Finance, here's the latest asset value of all the taxable properties within the village. And we get from Lisa, our town assessor, the latest number of the total asset value of all properties in the town, including the village. The ratio of those two numbers is the proportion of the fire rescue paid for by the village, and the rest of it is paid for the town. And roughly right now, about 82% of the fire rescue budget is paid by the town, and the village pays remaining 18%. This is why they are heavy duty involved in reviewing, scrutinizing and whatever these numbers. And then what we do is we figure out what that cost is gonna be, and then we notify them after the budget closes, and they then wait to pay that when they do their budget for their fiscal year, which runs from January 1st of 2026 to December 31st of 2026. All right. So our fiscal year runs June 1st to May 31st. Theirs goes January 1st to December 31st. All right. And so that way they pay for their fire rescue service in the first quarter of their fiscal year when they receive all their tax
And
levy.
2 installments.
In 2 installments, half in February and half in March. Right. So Gary, any comments, any questions?
No. You guys always do a good job.
Okay.
No common sense.
On the details here, the rationale makes sense, it's just that the numbers are just.
Yeah.
Out the
They're not
window.
gonna go down.
No,
It would be, I like his thought though.
Absolutely.
Because you're shaving 600,000 right there.
well, we wouldn't say, not 300,000.
Yeah, for
right?
yeah. Well, exactly with your, whatever,
Yeah,
hire
the offsetting costs.
somebody and,
Plus the 100,000 increase every year.
yeah.
Well, that,
Plus
that's
the
also
time
my,
to eat some of
well,
You're gonna be an 8, yeah.
yeah,
But the unknown is whether NDP will go along with that.
right.
They may not wanna do it.
Well, the first question is, can we actually,
Right.
suit up a group like that? Right? It has to be, parametric certified, right, because we want ALS support.
Yeah.
We don't want to decrease the support.
No,
Yeah, and it's gotta be 24-hour service.
24/7, that's right, 7 days a
The other
week.
thing you gotta think about how many paramedics you're gonna have.
You'd have to have 2 or
That's right.
3, at least
You're gonna actually have to have
3 or
at least
4.
one.
Yeah.
And you need somebody to manage the schedule and all that kind of
And
administration,
then who's responsible for doing payroll?
right? All that stuff, sure.
So then the next question, or thought that I have is, if the rescue squad is coming under new management and you think participation is gonna increase and all that, what is the thought of possibly going to 12-hour a day paid service and having the rescue squad cover 7 to 7 or something like that?
That's always a hope, I just don't wanna start making those promises and then,
Understood, I'm just,
yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's always the
And
hope
again-
that we
and
can,
again, NDP would have to weigh in too, because they are
Yep.
not into the partial games. They did that for us for years, right? And,
well, those companies before them, NDP, we've always had as 24/7.
yeah, right.
So before those, Sloper, Alamo,
Those are the best before my time. Right.
yeah, these companies are long gone, the
Yeah,
ones that
right.
did the
Or
12
bought
hours.
up or whatever.
Yeah,
And I think it's a definite problem, getting the kind of skills necessary for the money you can pay them to stay on the job, that's also, it's something to go through.
And to even know to know the number of calls that they're taking in the area that you would need to support, how many people would we need to hire and have on call? Because the last thing we would want is for there to be delay
Mhm. Sure,
helping people
well,
in
we have the
village or
data, I
town.
mean, every month we track the data,
Yeah,
fire company's got that, so we know
from
exactly
NDP.
when
Okay,
and how many calls we get.
okay.
One of the problems we have is that we pay a premium for the contract with NDP because we're rural.
Mhm.
NDP's contract with places like Fishkill or Wappingers or Poughkeepsie, it's a lot less for the municipality because they get so much more business. And when they pick somebody up, it's a short hop to the hospital and back.
Right.
The other problem here is that when they pick somebody up here, they get transported to Vassar or whatever, process them, and then come back, they're offline for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
2 hours is that
2 hours, okay.
for a normal call,
Yeah,
if it's a particularly messy one, then it's even longer.
Oh, is that right? Okay, so we're not that lucrative from a return on investment for those guys, that's why they charge us so much.
Right.
That's what we're up against. Okay, if there are no more questions or comments, I think we've done what we can for fire and rescue. When we put it all together, we call back the department heads just to tell them, here's what we want to do and have them have a shot again in the barrel to say, no, you can't come in for this because of.
We should have a February meeting.
Was that all?
All right, with that, then I think we're done with fire rescue.
Thank you.
Once I get the quote for the lights on,
Give Nicole.
I'll email you, Liz, and then you can.
All right,
Thank you guys so much for all you do.
This is just.
so you guys are welcome to stay with the police and everything.
Oh, you don't
All right,
need
yeah, take care.
Oh.
Thank you.
It would be in the gym.
So we can do that because I wanna do it here in the office, but I wanna know.
I just had December.
Can you give me a heads up on that?
Yeah.
So I can use that info for my.
So two, maybe not.
Let's give the clerks time to get their stuff together before we.
Oh, my stuff's together. I was just looking for year-end stuff, but I guess I never got a year-end report from fire. They gave to us.
The yearly report of what?
For the monthly meeting. I thought I had, I guess, I don't see it.
What does that mean?
Just for the number of calls, the question.
Oh, okay, then
Yeah,
we'll
I didn't know if we had, I thought we did, but,
they're having trouble with their program at the end of the year anyway, so.
Oh, that could number.
oh,
When you say we move on to the police,
I think that's a great
Yeah,
idea.
I just want to make one comment before we, what Liz said,
I'm like brain dead.
the idea of having the highway department
Get half of it.
take care of the wall. What you need to understand is that the budget we have for fire and rescue is 80% reimbursed by the town. All right, so they would cover 80% of the cost, whereas for the highway, we would cover 100% of the cost.
Yeah.
So, all
Okay,
right, just FYI for.
right.
The other thing you should know is the way the budget is set up and why it's so important for us to keep close tabs on the fire budget is because for everything that they spend up to the budget that we approve, we reimburse 80%. For everything that the fire department goes over the budget, the village would pay 100%. That's why it's also important for us to keep close tabs on expenditure by fire and rescue. All right? Which is, by the way, you don't want to go back and squeeze the budget and find them coming bursting at the seams, and now you're talking about,
and now we gotta pay
100%.
Right.
okay?
So it's balanced.
Yes. Now, the other thing you should know is I said we update the asset ratio every year. This year, just to add insult to injury, the portion of the fire rescue that the village pays is increasing from 15.5% to 17.4%. Now, on $800,000, $1 million budget, that's $20,000 of additional
2 days before my birthday.
payment by the village just for the ratio change. It doesn't cover the fact that the budget went up 200.
What's the explanation for that?
It's just by asset ratio value, all right? So if houses are sold in the village at a higher rate, so the village is about 1/5 of the total town.
Yeah.
And if there's more $1 million buildings sold in the village than in the town, it can disproportionate, hurt the village.
And so there, what may have even happened is there's been more. So does it matter if there's more real estate activity in the village?
It has to be sales. It's based on sales, yeah.
So if there are more homes in the village sold, that's more activity.
Yeah,
that's
because
more
if houses are
revenue.
on the books for 300,000, they sell
Right,
for $1
so
million.
because people wanna live in the village,
Yeah, and you're paying that premium,
right,
right, that's gonna happen,
gotcha,
all right? That's just a roll of the dice.
yeah,
For the last couple of years, we actually had benefited from the fact that when the Bennett Park and the Thorn Building came off our books, the Millbrook Community Partnership declared 501c3, so they became tax exempt. Right, when those properties came off the books, it disproportionately helped us in the village more than it did the town.
Yeah.
All right, because it didn't have a 5-1 ratio.
Oh.
So we were kind of riding away for the last couple of years. The party's over.
Oh, well. Everything comes to an end.
Right. Okay, so now with the police?
Yep.
Okay, so Chief, take it away.
Okay, so looking at the grade department request column, I'll start with the court. So you see there's a 0 under court, schools and special events. The court and the school are based on reimbursement, so it's a washout. It's, the department or the village charges the court and the schools for officers to conduct security, and then we get paid back 100% reimbursement on that, so it's a wash, so there's nothing in that budget line. Special events is basically an unused line right now.
Yeah, that's what I said. Okay, so Chief, just so Karen's just saying, it shows up, it zeroes out because you show the expense on one side and you show the revenue on the other, so you should show an estimated expense there.
And then when they work that, does that get charged to court and school?
Mhm.
Yeah, so if it's charged to these sub-accounts when they work, the school or the court, so we definitely should have those numbers in.
Okay.
So pick
I
whatever
mean,
number,
But we
it's a
don't know-
washout, it's no
Yeah,
it
actual
is, but we-
expenditure.
so just pick whatever you want, you think is
It's about $3,500 roughly, but the court contract, so what they did with the court is because we were very short-staffed and couldn't provide 100% coverage, they ended up going to Dutchess County Sheriff's Office on the court end of it. They were hoping to get that back, but we don't know if that's gonna happen or when. So that's, that's just a waiting game, but so the
all I'm saying is you should pick out what number you want, and she'll make sure that same number is reflected over the revenue.
okay,
Right,
it's,
that-
it-
that- no, working out.
We're saying the same thing.
yeah,
We
it's
just
about
can't-
3,500 for
Okay.
both of those.
Alright, for both of them. So just bring up
Individually.
For school, so if you had, say, how many football games and how many basketball games? So that's about $3,500 worth from the school?
Correct.
Okay.
3,500 for the school, 3,500 for the court if we still have the contract. But we don't, so the court is still a 0 out.
Right, and then same with special events, you don't know who's gonna ask for police coverage.
Right, it's impossible to anticipate.
Right.
So just put a placeholder in there and then you'll refer it over to the revenue as well. Okay, good.
So just so everybody understands what special events is, that's, let's say an outside entity requests police assistance with traffic control or something that has to be conducted by a uniformed officer in a marked police vehicle. They can basically farm out police services. We would assist them to make sure that whatever program or project that they're doing is safe. And then we would bill the entity and they would 100% reimbursement back to the village.
Like when we had the movie people in town.
Correct, yeah, something like that. So the next line brings us to equipment. I look at this like it's equipment major. These are the larger pieces of equipment that we would purchase, and it's not something we would replace every year. These are long-term equipment items. The body armor is $7,200. That's the cost to replace each of the officers' body armor. They're all up for replacement. It's a 5-year expiration date on the body armor. Now, there is a federal grant that we can get 50% reimbursement on this. So although that's not shown in that dollar amount because there's no guarantee we'll get the grant, there's a very good chance that we will. It's pretty commonplace as long as we apply in time that we get that 50% reimbursement.
50%. Okay. Alright.
That brings us down to firearms is $3,600. Currently, we have exactly the number of handguns per officer, which is an issue because if an officer experiences a breakage or damage to his firearm, we don't have a firearm to replace it. So it's the purpose of this is to have a spare pistol to replace it in case that happens. Patrol rifles we don't have any long gun capabilities right now. In other words, because of the schools and some of the other businesses that we have in the village, it's very important for us to be able to have an immediate action, rapid deployment response from our officers to an active shooter situation. Without having rifles, it takes away our long distance capability. So we put in a grant for $10,000, which through the state, which we got, and we purchased equipment. Purchased 2 ballistic shields, ballistic vests, and helmets, which the vests and the shields are capable of stopping high caliber rounds. The ballistic vest can stop rifle rounds. So we have the equipment to deploy to an active shooter situation, but we don't have the firearms to do that. Handguns they don't have the accuracy to reach down long hallways. to, the precision that you get with a rifle. They don't have the optics to be able to make those very precise shots. So that's why I put in for 2 rifles. Now, you should know that I put in for a grant, and I mentioned this in one of the board meetings. I put in for a grant to purchase 2 rifles, but we were denied solely based on the fact that there were unavailable funds to meet all of the requests that were put in for that grant. I will put in for it again later this year, but it's, the grant goes in September, October, and we wouldn't find out until January, February of next year. So, we would go, at least an entire year without having that long distance capability.
I mean, I guess a retraining would be in order if you did get those long range rifles and then everyone would get trained. Is that how the protocol is?
Absolutely,
Is
yes.
that how it works?
Yep. So the way we do our firearms training would be twice a year. We would do handgun and rifle during, either one or both of those training days.
Is that a lot of money to training? What's the
No.
cost?
No.
It's like
Probably not even much of a cost.
It's not, so
Different, you're still going out to shoot pistols, so you'll be shooting just rifles while you're there as
Right.
well.
Yeah. We don't have to farm it out. I'm a certified
Okay.
firearms instructor, so we would do all the in-service training. It's just like Pat said, we would do handgun in the spring and long gun in the fall, or vice versa, and it's not a huge amount. It's really, it's ammunition, salary for the officers during the training period, and that's really about it. Okay, so the next item is contracts. We have Sonic Firewall, which is that is the device that protects our in-house server for the entire village, and it provides malware and antivirus, and basically just a firewall from any malicious attempts to enter our database. That's an approximate cost. That's $795. That's based on that we had a new firewall installed this year with an annual maintenance warranty. So that's a predicted cost of what it'll run. Likely it'll be a little bit less than that, but that's what it cost us.
So I mentioned, does the police have their own server yet or not?
We don't yet, and the reason we don't is because I'm waiting to determine what records management system we go with, and that'll determine whether we go with a cloud-based service or an in-house server.
And will you use this grant to cover that?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good, okay, good. So then will this firewall just protect that server, or is this gonna protect the,
It'll protect both.
both?
Right now, it's protecting the village server.
Okay. So should we split the cost of that between the front office and the,
I don't think we need to do that.
no? Okay.
We cover their electric.
We keep the light outside.
So the next one is All Traffic Solutions. That is a maintenance and warranty contract we have with our digital speed signs that you see occasionally around the village. And that allows us to access them through cloud services, to set them up, extract traffic surveys, and deploy them out to different locations. It also provides maintenance should anything happen to the devices. The next one is outside services. That's for IT to come in and assist us when we have computer issues, whether they're in-house or mobile computers. Recently, we've done a lot of updates. We're very fortunate that we were able to use the law enforcement technology grant to cover those costs, because it was probably triple this amount. But I'm looking forward. I think that we can use this as a viable number based on the fact that, we've dealt with all of the major issues, and we still have the law enforcement tech grant to assist us with any large issues as far as technology goes, where we'll need IT services. The TLO TransUnion is a criminal database software program that assists us with our investigations and gives us a deep dive into any information that we need to further our investigation. Lexipol is our policy service that provides us with our department policy, critical updates. Any changes in the law are handled by the professionals at Lexipol, and they they update the policy and kick it out to us, so all we have to do is review it and accept it or deny it, but it's important to maintain that because the law changes constantly. We've had some incredible amount of changes in New York State in the last few years, so keeping up with those is what keeps the liability low in the village, because our policy updates with New York State law.
Now, did they include also, I thought they kept training records.
It does, so there's
Okay.
also a built-in, I'm glad you mentioned that, there's also an online, I guess you call it online, it's built into the program, it's what they call DTBs or daily training bulletins, so what that allows us to do is use their policy program to assign officers to in-house or in-service training to refresh their memory on policy and how to handle different situations, how the policies would apply. It's really an excellent service that's built into our policy program.
It kind of gives you, I thought they give you like tests or something like that. Here's the situation, what would you do?
Right.
Yeah, okay, very helpful.
The next one is Biometrics for All. That's our live scan system. We were able to purchase that through a grant this year. It's about a $25,000 program. We got a grant through the state, so we now have a live scan system in-house. And when I purchased that, I did it in such a way that when we applied for the grant, we projected ahead for a few years to pay for the annual warranty and maintenance, which is $1,500 a year. So currently covered under the grant, we're safe until 2028. So I put that budget. Okay, the next is utilities. So we have Optimum, which is phone and internet. That provides capabilities for in-house and mobile computers, cell phone for the officers to be able to use when they're out in the field, to have access to resources that they need. We have the Verizon Wireless, which covers cell phone, mobile Wi-Fi in the vehicles and GPS. The email Outlook email system and Microsoft Office annual renewal fee. Any questions about anything so far? Don't hesitate to stop me if something.
I just have a question, the MS Office,
Okay.
why is the renewal so much?
I just based that off of what I thought that we were currently paying. Do you believe that that's?
Isn't the Office, that was the $99 or the $100 whatever dollars a year?
Is that per subscription or?
No, there was the one that was, it's like 5 licenses,
Licenses, right, okay.
yeah. So I just.
If you think that's
I think it would
inaccurate, we can
depend
certainly
on-
check.
I'll just circle it and put a question mark.
We'll check in to see.
Yeah, unless that includes something else, that's what I didn't know.
No, I think that's it. I think it's, whatever, just whatever Windows systems we have.
Okay, yeah, cause I thought it was like 99,
Okay.
but I know you did have one that was,
That we're paying for from,
there was 2 different ones, yeah,
Yeah.
but I think there was one that was always on a computer, which is $149, and that's not a renewal.
right.
But then I think the renewal for a year is 99.
Okay, so why don't we'll adjust that?
Yeah, I'll make a note.
Okay, great, thank you. Moving down, we have gasoline for the 3 vehicles. It's projected at 950 gallons or $3.50 per gallon. That's a pretty close number to what we've used in the past, with probably a little bit of a buffer. Because the more staffing we get and the more coverage we can provide, the higher that gas is gonna go, obviously. But that's what we projected. Going down to equipment and supplies, office supplies, we're looking at $750 to cover toners for two printers, copy paper, folders, and just basic office supplies. Computer supplies is $300, hardware, software, and parts that we can't necessarily anticipate we're gonna replace, but things like keyboards that go bad and we have a battery backup system upstairs, because if we're using a computer as a server now because we don't have a server, and it's clearly not the ideal way to do that. And we will look to replace that. Even if we do go with a cloud service, we have to have a server. But right now we have a battery backup to protect our all of our archive data. So that's where that number comes from. Uniforms is $7,000. That is derived from, it costs us about $2,500 for initial issue for each officer that we hire. So that's anticipated at 2 officers hired this year. The extra $2,000 covers uniform replacement for officers because they don't have a uniform allowance. We keep that money in the budget to, you know, replace their shirts, pants, coats, anything that gets torn, damaged, worn out. Uniforms are unfortunately extremely expensive. There's really no way around that. They go up every year. It's just the nature of the beast. Then we have, you know, signs for different events and traffic control and things like that at $100. Let's see, traffic enforcement. So this year we ran out of local summons. We had to replace those. The first bid I got was about $1,800. We were able to find another printer that could do it for a significantly lesser amount. However, it's the reality that we do go through those. We do have to replace them. Trax paper that we purchased for the mobile units, which is a thermal imaging paper that goes into the printers in the cars, and they don't use toner, and so the paper is a little bit more expensive because it is thermal imaging paper, and that's where all the accident reports and tickets and things like that are printed, so the officers can issue those in the field. Let's see. Then we have patches, which is like flags and things like that for officer uniforms. Badges, when we hire new officers, if the current shirt badge and hat badge is worn out or broken, needs to be replaced. Fleet supplies is $1,200 for flares, lockout entry tools, and other in-vehicle equipment. Unfortunately, flares are really expensive. We were able to do some research and find a much cheaper vendor than was used previously, but a box of 36 flares costs $200. And you know, anytime we have a storm or you know, motor vehicle accidents, especially when they're in bad locations, curves and, you know, hills and areas like that, it's important for the officers to have plenty of flares to be able to put out to make the road safe. Whenever we do events in the dark, like the Rotary's New Year's Eve event, it's very dark up there. Cars are coming fast from that 45-mile-an-hour zone into a 30-mile-an-hour zone. With people crossing, you know, all along that road, it's very important that we light that up so that nobody gets hit.
How long do the flares last?
They're 30 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not very long.
Yeah.
But, you know, in most cases, like an accident or something like that, that's sufficient. That's all we need. But we have to put out a series of them. You know, there's a certain flare patterns that we have to use and go out at a certain distance,
Right.
you know, to be able to calculate, you know, the time for vehicles to be able to slow down.
Safety and
15, like 100 or something.
Yeah, exactly right. Let's see. The next is first aid kit and AED supplies. So we have one AED. Ideally, it would be better if we had two, but they're very expensive devices. The batteries are very expensive to replace, so that $800 is to cover any damage or repairs to the unit, replacement of the battery. There's also the AED pads, which are getting pretty expensive now, and anytime they're used, they have to be disposed of and replaced. So that's where that $800 comes from.
How long what's the life expectancy of an AED?
You know, I've seen them last between 5 and 10 years, so it's pretty good lifetime as long as they're well cared for. It's really the batteries that go because the batteries go through extreme temperatures from the summer to the winter. They're in the patrol vehicles, and you know that's kind of kills their shelf life. Then we have ammo and training supplies. So again, unfortunately, ammo is very expensive. A box of service ammo costs on the state contract bid is about $450 a case. So case is 1,000 rounds. And then we need training ammo for the handguns, cleaning supplies so officers can clean their firearms after training, paper targets and, you know, ear protection, eye protection, all the stuff that's just included in firearms training basically.
You said you're talking to Don about flares, trying to get a volume discount and everything.
Yes, sir.
They're also into first aid kits and AEDs. Is there any possibility of you linking with them on their replacements? I know they go through a replacement of those kits and AEDs on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Can you see what they're doing and maybe you can combine forces there?
Yeah, absolutely.
You require an AED and a first aid kit in each car all the time, right?
Well, we don't. Yeah, well, We only have one of each right now, which we should have at least 2 medical bags.
Mhm.
So at some point, I'd like to, evaluate what we have in our med bags, make sure everything is up to date and good, and and then purchase another one for the other vehicle. The AEDs is just something that they're like $5,000 or $6,000, so
Oh, they are?
yeah, they're expensive.
Oh.
So in order to replace that, I didn't want to put that in this budget. I think we can continue to use one for now, and then maybe sometime down the road we can look into a grant or another means of coming up with the money.
Let me ask you, do you guys carry Narcan?
We do.
You do?
Yeah.
And that's temperature sensitive, right? So you have to bring it in every night? Is that true?
It's really only temperature sensitive in extreme heats and extreme colds.
Oh, is that right? Okay. All right.
So that's really the concern, but because the cars are, during the tour are maintained at a pretty reasonable body temperature, then, we haven't experienced any problems.
And you guys are trained to give it?
Minister it?
I couldn't tell you when they received training last, and that's one of the issues that I'm gonna come to with training is first aid and AED and BLS and legal updates, domestic violence
Okay, good.
training and all of those things.
Yeah, I know last time, I know that back in the teens, like 2018, I had the Dutchess County, had whatever, Board of Health, they came and did training, the officers. And I know Officer Bill has used it at least once. So you guys do have it, you do use it. So-
Yeah,
Okay.
Alright, so there's an AED here, but
Yeah,
none of
so-
us know how to use it.
What?
We don't know how to use it.
Well, I think when you open it up, you'll find out the
Yeah, it's
instructions
not
are
that
right here.
difficult.
It tells you where to put it,
No.
but here.
No, I know, but like in an emergency, like, I'm like, hold on a second, let me go and read.
Well, actually, well, you should open it up and see what it's like, because I went through the first aid training,
Uh-huh.
and basically, it flips open, it's very
Yeah.
Tells you
large print, it tells you step by step what you should do.
Okay.
Plus, you should also be on 911 and saying, what do I do here kind of stuff, so.
True, but I mean,
Yeah.
does it cost
Yeah,
a lot to
we
get?
can include you in training when we have the officers
No,
retrain.
they're
Yeah,
not-
that would
I
not
don't
be
think
bad.
it'll be a great expense, if anything, just to have the two of you there.
Mhm.
And it would definitely reduce the liability of having you trained in the usage of it, because God forbid something goes wrong, the first thing you're gonna do is look to sue the village.
Right.
But yeah, we can
It's
do
part of
that.
the first aid, do a general first aid and
Right,
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Chief,
I need to take
and,
it anyway.
we have NYMER, that's our, for insurance, and they actually offer a lot of trainings too, that's available to us. It's like called NYMER University or something, they have a specific one for police, I don't know if any of those,
that's right.
yeah,
Okay.
like a ton of them, I don't know.
okay.
If, I mean, I'd be happy to show you them,
Yeah.
maybe if any of them are useful, and it's all online stuff.
It's all webinar stuff, right? Yeah.
And that really falls in line with all of the sexual harassment and bloodborne pathogens and all that stuff that's manual, that's mandated annual training. So yeah, if we could
Yeah.
work that out, that would be great.
Yeah, it's included with our stuff, so
Fantastic.
be free to listen.
Okay, so let's see, leave off. So the next one we're looking at is property and evidence supplies. Currently, our process for how we collect and process evidence is, it's not exactly aligned with our policy, and our policy is, federal and state regulated, which is where we have to be. So there's some expenses that are gonna be incurred to get us up to speed with how we collect and process evidence. So that's where that $400 comes from. That's actually a low number, but I think we can get it done with that. So that's where that is. Repairs and maintenance, communications, I put in $1,000 for radio repairs and maintenance, and the reason I did that is a lot of police agencies have two ways to go about obtaining and maintaining radio communications. So you can either purchase them under a warranty, which is very expensive, and you pay a monthly or annual fee, and that provides, a replacement for batteries when they die, a replacement for the radio device if it gets broken or lost or damaged. But because we don't have a warranty, which to be honest, I just don't think we could afford, we have radios now that are very old, they need to be replaced. I am gonna replace them with the law enforcement tech grant, which is probably gonna be upwards of about $13,000 to $15,000, depending on what we replace. But because we're purchasing them outright, if a radio gets damaged or broken, we have to pay for that out of pocket. So that's where that $1,000 comes from. What I'll likely do is purchase a spare, so the officers have two different kinds of radios. They have a mobile radio in the car, which is much more powerful, allows them, better communication transmissions. And then they have the portable radios they carry on their person, which are less powerful and, don't have as great capability. The portable radios are about $1,000 a piece, up to about $3,000. And the mobile radios start at about $1,200 and go up to about $2,500. I get the point being, I'll try and purchase a spare radio with the law enforcement tech grant. So it'll give us a little bit of wiggle room with that money. But we do have to have a spare radio just in case, one gets damaged and we have to,
So you need three, you're saying you need two and one? Is that what you're saying?
For the
radio, how many radios do you need? Including the spare?
One of the mobile radios is new, so that one's okay.
Oh.
The other radio is very old. And then we'll need one for the new car, and then we'll need, I haven't figured it out exactly yet, but I'm thinking minimum of 4 radios, maximum of 8 radios, depending on whether we want to assign them to officers, which is always good because they're usually treated better when it's assigned to you versus, where they're in a dock and you come in and grab it every day. So it's about where we end up with the law enforcement tech grant at the end of the day and what we can afford, for longevity purposes. And then the next one is computer supplies, which, we're talking about network parts and software and things like that. Office maintenance, which is like furniture and file cabinets and anything we may need in that area. And let's see, okay, then we can move on to the next page, which is training. For training, I allotted $1,500 for officers. Now, this is external training. This isn't salary. So what we're talking about is there are certain certifications that are important for the agency to have, and one is as like a field training officer. So when we hire somebody new, we should have a certified field training officer to take that officer in the field and train them to how the Village of Millbrook operates, and there's certain procedures that they have to follow to prepare that officer to go on their own for solo patrol. Things like property and evidence management technicians, that's a certain training that you have to be able to process and collect evidence. And there's other trainings like that are external classes by DCJS or some other private entity that we really are required by policy to send our officers to. And they vary from between, I'd say as low as $200 to upward of $500 or $800 for the class and the training, depending on how long it is and what the training is. So that's where that money comes from. The $1,000 for under the Chiefs training is for the New York State Chiefs of Police Association Training Conference, which is a 3-day event. It's a good training conference to provide executive leadership training. You make good contacts. I was able to meet with John Braun from NTSC, National Child Safety Program. Basically, it's the agency that developed the child on a milk carton many years ago that we were familiar with. Well, now they have other programs, and what they do is they create literature from seniors to very young children, coloring books and all kinds of stuff. And the way it works is it's a free program for the agency where the company, NTSC, they reach out to businesses in the area and request donations. And the businesses, we have some in Millbrook that have made donations. That money goes to the company. They create the literature at our request. They give it to the police department for free. So it's the local businesses that are paying for it. They do all the work. We get the stuff. And then if we have one of our local events, we can give out the literature and the coloring books. And some of the senior books are really good for phone scam safety and house security and really good information. So that was a really good connection that I made, through this conference. And there's a lot of other things. There's a lot of good grant information, and it's just it's very worthwhile. So I put it in there. you know, it's up to the board whether you think that's valuable or not. Travel and reimbursements, $250, down to vehicle repair and maintenance. So 250 is a 2020 Ford Explorer. I put $2,500 in there for towing and repair. We can't really anticipate what damages are gonna come up. But that's the dollar amount that I looked at historically, what we've used in the past, and it's a little bit lower than we've paid, but I think that will probably get us through. 7K251 is our new Charger that's gonna be going on the road very soon. I put $1,000 in there just because, again, can't anticipate what type of damage it may sustain, but better to be prepared. Let's see. And then 7K252, which is minimal. The next one is tires, $2,400, 3 vehicles, approximately $800 per year per tire, for 4 tires, based on the New York State contract rate. That's where that number comes from. $60 for inspections, $600 for oil changes. Because these cars spend so much time on the road, they don't get a ton of miles because the village is now large, but they get a lot of hours. And so if you look at a village vehicle, it may have, like one of ours has 88,000 miles on it. That's probably equivalent to like 200,000 miles. So we have to change the oil based on the hours and not the miles. But it's important that we keep those oil changes up to protect the engine life. Brakes, auto maintenance supplies like wipers, fluids, cleaning supplies, and then fire extinguisher refills and inspections. So that's about $150. Any questions about anything?
Yeah, so the new vehicle, $1,000, I mean, it's gonna be under warranty, plus any damage that occurs, or whatever, should be covered by insurance, right? So what would be the,
Yeah, I mean, less than
Additional
deductibles.
huh?
Just
Oh,
less
less
than
than deductible, okay, all right. And you're still showing the old car sticking around,
I am.
okay, I mean, that's,
And I can explain that. So we had 2 cars down at the same time a couple of weeks ago. So we had no police vehicles available to us, 0. So I had an officer come in one day and he didn't have a vehicle to go in. So I sent him out on the road and he did foot patrol and he stayed around the village and did what he could do, and then he came back and did some paperwork. But there's no sense in us paying him to sit in headquarters when calls are coming in that he can't respond to without a police vehicle. So it's important that we have 3 vehicles in the fleet. At one point during the winter, we had 1 vehicle was out of service for damage. One of our oldest vehicle is old. It's a 2016. So that doesn't sound old, but for a police vehicle, that's really old. Because they do get abused, and it's not intentional, it's just the nature of the business. You know, they get a lot of miles of use. We had an event up the hill here for the Rotary Club, and it was dark, it was late at night, and we only had 1 vehicle. That vehicle was on patrol. It would have been good to have another vehicle to be able to light up the roadway, to make it safer for pedestrians to cross, but we didn't have that option. So it's just good, I think, for us to have that, to reduce liability, have a spare vehicle, not get ourselves into a situation where we don't have any vehicles to use. I mean, you wouldn't think that could happen, but unfortunately it does. And you know, there's just things that we just can't anticipate.
all right, it's just gonna know that it costs money to put it on the road, it costs money to repair it, it costs money to insure it, you know?
Yes.
So all those things add up,
Right, and my intention is this car is not gonna be used for routine patrol.
yeah,
This car is gonna be used as a spare. The other 2 cars will do the bulk of the patrol. And this car will be a backup for when, you know, God forbid the situation comes where we're down to 1 or 2, you know, or no vehicles again. So I know it is an added cost for a car that, you know, is probably gonna sit more than it's driven.
Mhm.
But I think, I don't see how as a police agency, we go through periods of time where we have no police cars. I just don't think that's a feasible option. Okay, so let's see, so then now we're moving on to hiring and physicals. So we have, there's an array of things that we have to go through when we hire police personnel. We have to go give them a psychological exam. In some cases, we have to give them a physical exam, civil fingerprints and drug testing. All of those things cost, so you'll see that dollar amount is $1,780. That's enough for us to hire 2 people. So I anticipated that we may hire 2 people in the next 12 months. And that's where that dollar amount comes from. These are not options. These are requirements, but from the state, based on the Professional Policing Act that came out in October of 2021. There are certain conditions where when we hire someone, they have to have a psychological exam, they have to have a physical. All officers hired in New York State, whether it's full-time, part-time, temporary, permanent, they have to have civil fingerprints taken, and that's so that we can check their criminal history, and they have to have a drug screen. So there's no wavering on that. We don't have a choice. It's mandated by the state. The next one is the police vehicle reserve, that's zeroed out. Police and fire retirement, that $30,000 is based on calculations from the state and the current staffing that we have.
That paper's in your packet as well.
Okay, so that goes in here, it's not blank.
What's not,
That's the return.
Oh, retirement.
Yeah, it went up.
So what's the benefits, employee benefits? What is that?
There's nothing.
That's nothing? Okay, fine, we don't do that. Okay, fine.
It was down to.
So 30,000 is the number
The estimated.
based on 2 people?
That's based on, Nicole can explain it better because she's more familiar.
you know the sheet,
Yeah.
It's based on the
That's what-
annual retirement payment.
that's what they give us.
Is that a function of the number of people?
It is.
Yeah, it
It's-
depends on the tier and their salary and there's a factor and
Oh, okay,
it's basically based on salary.
okay. So we're doing based on who's on board now.
Right, so, and certain officers, if we hire a retired officer, there's no contribution there.
Okay, sure.
Which is really ideal, because if we can get young retired officers who still want to stay in policing, have a lot of training and experience to offer, they're ideal. Because they come in with all of that knowledge and experience, and we're not paying into the retirement system. We're not paying them fringe benefits, so that's really like the ideal situation. And then we're looking at the principal bond for the 2023 Dodge Charger is $10,400 payment this year. And then the line below it is the interest on the bond, which is $1,820.
Right.
So that total comes out to, if you look at salary, it's, we'll talk about salary at another session.
Yeah, right.
Equipment and contract totals is $99,665.
Oh, I have 104,029 right here with everything other than.
I pared that down from that number that I gave you at 104, so we're about $5,000 less than that. Is that based on calculations on the spreadsheet?
Yeah, and that's actually including the $3,500 for.
We'll take that out
Take
because
this out.
that's salary, yeah. I think you were doing this without the salary, correct?
That number that I
Yeah.
just gave, the 99,665 is not based on salary.
Alright, so that's.
So apples to apples, how's that 100,529 compare with the current budget without salary? Can you do that?
For current, let's see, adjusted budget without salary. But then, and without the grant stuff too.
Oh, you take the grant stuff out, yeah, sure.
Alright, so it would be this. $64,981, so 65,000.
65,000 goes to what?
Well,
I have 100,000.
It's 99,665.
So what numbers am I missing? What am I doing? What numbers am I off by then?
We have, I mean, you and I can sit down and go through it tomorrow if you want and make sure
Yeah,
our
sure.
numbers line
Yeah,
up.
no, because that's basically on what the department request is, everything's the same, so that's why I was.
I did a little bit more trimming today,
Oh, without the stuff that you sent me, then
Yeah.
there's, okay,
so it'll be close, but it may be a little bit off.
alright.
So, all the things you talk about that are annual things, maintenance, repair, those kind of things, they need to be in the budget. How much of the things that are kind of one-shot deals, like buying the rifles, can you put towards this grant?
Well, I'm hoping that, as far as the law enforcement tech grant, that's really only for computer systems and that type of technology.
Oh, is that right?
Firearms, tasers, ammunition, none of that stuff is covered.
Because all these things that you're putting here as far as maintenance and repair or whatever, annual service, those should be part of the budget. I'm just looking to see are there things that are here that are one-time deals, one-shot deals that you could off the side and try to get a grant for.
Well, I think like the communications, if you look under repair and maintenance, 000.20 repair
Yeah.
and maintenance.
Yeah.
I did put $1,000 in there for replacement of a portable radio, but I think that if we buy a spare through the law enforcement tech grant, we can cut that.
Okay, fine. So can you just come back with, here's the things, if we did this and that?
Yeah.
Just to give us some kind of leverage of what we
Sure.
can play around with?
I think there's a couple of places where we can trim, you know, I did cut out computers and printer replacement. We do, you know, our Station 1 computer, which is acting as a server right now, is an older computer. I don't know how long that's gonna last. It is gonna have to be replaced at some point. But a lot of this stuff like technology like that, like the printer that I removed from the budget, are things that I can't anticipate whether we're gonna be able to replace them through the grant because, you know, looking at the estimates for records management systems, all of the ones that I've contacted so far are in a ballpark of $50,000 for implementation. And then you're talking about anywhere in the area of $20,000 to $30,000 for an annual cost. So RMS are really expensive. Now I spoke with a vendor today who was substantially lower than all the others, and I'm gonna look into that a little bit further. It would be a big savings. And if we can get into a program that's much cheaper, that suits our needs, we can use the law enforcement tech grant to purchase a couple of years of warranty and maintenance. So that's my goal, is to push off that RMS annual maintenance fee of anywhere from, let's say, as cheap as $6,000 or $7,000 upwards of $20,000.
Okay.
To push that off for a few years, but that is something that we're gonna have to look at. It's something we can't continue to exist in SJS.
Okay. And is it possible that you can get long-term contracts with these guys? So instead of 3 years at 30,000 a year, they'll do 5 years at 25?
They don't typically reduce their costs. They usually will plug in like a 2 or 3%
Oh,
increase.
all right.
But yeah.
Not interested,
yeah,
okay.
Unfortunately,
All right.
because they are trying to anticipate their increased
Sure.
costs.
Sure.
Any questions about anything?
So salaries, you're saving that for a separate discussion with
Yeah.
the board at the appropriate time. All right. Okay, any question from the board about this? All right, so that does it for fire, rescue, and police. I'm sure Nicole will generate the official charts that we can get hard
Yeah,
copies.
tomorrow,
And I can X out all the ones I've got.
and reprint.
And then next week, we're off. You got a board meeting.
Mhm.
The following week, we'll do highway and front office.
So make a motion, right?
Yeah.
So I make a motion to close the meeting?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
So